Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies, where tonight's going to be a very interesting night. We got Jesse in the house. He's here right now, sitting down, supporting the red, and the red, white, and yellow, whatever the fuck that is. I don't know what it is.
There's no yellow on this.
I'm just kidding.
That's our colors.
Not a bandwagon fan, I promise you guys out there. I'm a Chiefs fan I've been a Chiefs fan since I was 5. But anyways, welcome you guys to Talk Junkies. Johnny's not here. He's just got some stuff going on. Maybe not. He just wants to relax and chill, and that's okay, man. But anyways, tonight we're just going to talk briefly about some stuff. I think we'll kind of focus mainly on inflation and what's going on, why people aren't wanting to work. And I think it was, like 4.3 million people last month quit their jobs. So, I mean, there's just some stuff going on that we need to talk about. But I think we'll open it up with, it's all over the news, all over mainstream media, it's just the Alec Baldwin situation. And I'm just kind of curious. So from what I've read recently, is the director, he's just not he doesn't really follow safety protocols. And there's just been some other people who have voiced their, opinions on him on whenever he does things. Like, I forget, there was a show on Hulu that he was, he was directing, and people just said he never followed safety protocol. And I think I'd have to reread it, but I think he's the one who actually handed Alec the gun. I'd have to reread it. I might be wrong on that, but I think he actually handed.
You're talking about the director, not Alec Baldwin himself, but
correct,
the director that was working on this.
Yes, he's very reckless, is what they're saying.
Okay.
And I guess like you have to say it out loud, like, hey, it's a cold gun on set, which means it's an actual gun, but it's not loaded. It just has blanks in it. But for one, I feel for Alec, man, because as an actor, I mean, I've acted in one short film my whole life. But
it's a great film.
Yeah. But that's got to be terrible, man, because there was 2 people injured, 1 person dead, and you think you're just acting. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. Like, how does a loaded gun even enter the equation when you're trying to film for a movie?
So it wasn't like Brandon Lee's case. Brandon Lee, for some odd reason, there was an actual, it was a physical round that killed him. It was a blank round that killed the girl. Oh, no, it was a loaded gun. No, it was a blank round.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe
you can look it up real quick. From what I heard, because blanks apparently, which I don't know enough about it, but from what I heard, that the blanks still killed her somehow. Like, blanks are still.
But then how did it injure someone else who was standing behind her? I don't know. That's interesting. That's something I didn't.
Should have looked more into it.
Well, I read a few articles. And maybe I just didn't read it right. But either way, it's a terrible situation to be in, whether it's a blank round or not.
Yeah, no, it for sure is. I couldn't imagine what that would be like, just thinking, oh man, this is a scene, and then you actually physically kill someone. But
yeah, so do you think he should face charges?
No.
You don't think so? Yeah, that's technically murder, right?
No, because murder is with intent, and there was no intent.
Very true, very true.
So if anything, you're talking about like a manslaughter case, but it'll end up being, which won't even go to court. They're going to pay that family out like a massive amount of money, and then everything will be okay. And then new safety regulations will come in. That's the thing about safety regulations, is it's only up until bad shit happens and somebody dies, and then regulations get heightened.
So, sorry, the assistant director did not know the prop gun was loaded with live rounds.
Oh, so it was a live bullet. Okay, so it was the exact same. How do you not check that fucking
shit
I'm saying,
real quick? Man. Like, it almost seems like that's intentional, to not make sure whenever it's your job, man. Like, you guys are doing this, it's on set, it's for a movie, or the movie's called Rust or a series. I'm not sure which one it was, but it was the assistant director who handed him the gun. Like, come on. Like, that's your job, man. Like, if I'm going to hand someone a gun, even if it's a movie and you think there are blanks in it, I'm still probably going to check it 2 or 3 times.
I don't even know what a blank would look like compared to that, and especially a novice, like an actor. They just get handed some shit. Probably they wouldn't even know.
But I mean, you're talking about Alec Baldwin. This dude's a top 50 actor. Like, he's getting paid large amounts of money. So I'm sure the on-set presence and what that feels like is upper echelon.
Yeah.
And it's not like they just said, hey, man, we need a gun for this set. Can you just go get the gun from your house and then bring it up here and not unload it, type of thing, I feel like there would be more to the process than that.
Man, that's crazy. But once again, there's no way that it isn't just negligence, but in an awful way. negligence as far as like just not checking your shit. Isn't there an expert for like everything? Like if you have an animal on set, like you bring a cat to a set, doesn't there have to be like 8 people from PETA there, like wearing hemp sweaters, and you know they got to light some candles and shit and make sure that the cat feels okay before they film, you know?
Yeah, you would think, especially Hollywood.
So why not a gun expert, you know, like checking all the shit before, you know, before that scene happens with a gun, especially like I said, and I'm sure everybody was referencing the whole Brandon Lee thing because that was the one thing that comes to mind as far as actually like dying on set was Bruce Lee's son in The Crow, which I've never even seen that movie, but
yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to bring it up. It's just it's a weird situation, something you don't really see every day, and
as far as my opinion on the whole thing is somebody's going to get paid out a bunch of money. New regulations will come in, and then nobody will ever really be talking about this again because the girl who got killed wasn't Brandon Lee. It was, I don't even know, I can't even remember the name of the girl. I like briefly, like I said, I was watching the movie Dune, and I was more worried about going to see the movie that I've been waiting for like, it feels like 3 years. But no, it's because she's not a big enough name. Like this will be like swept up on the rug, like so quick, and just new regulations will come in, and then a family will get paid out, and then that'll be it.
That's it. You're not wrong. So moving on, man. Things are affecting us in a hard way. I was watching, and remember we had Jason on from the Angry Prepper, and I still follow him on YouTube, and there was just an interesting picture that he had shared. It's just this picture, and he's like, I just went to the grocery store, and these items cost me $150. And I want to say it was like maybe 20 items, maybe less. And just the things that he had, 20 items, I don't know what the average price, if it was $150, what that would be, but inflation is hitting at home. I mean, here in Missouri, we're looking at $3.04 a gallon in gas. We've seen that before, I feel like, at some point, but then it went down really quick. I think we've seen $3 before.
We had a gas crisis back in, it was between 05 and like 010. Gas was like $4. It even probably got
It didn't hit $4 here.
Yeah, it did.
Really?
In Missouri, 100%. I remember that.
So it's not uncharted waters, but there are places in like California where there have been reports where it's hit $7 a gallon. Me going to the grocery store, I think you can look across the board and see prices on meat have went up. They kind of came down here where we're at. I remember probably a month ago for like 2 pounds of ground beef, it was over like $10. It was like $12, $13, $14. Now it's came back down in line around 8 or 9 if you had the saver card or whatever. But inflation's happening. So you have Janet Yellen. She's like the head honcho for the Federal Reserve, saying that we may not see breaks until second quarter of next year. Or middle year of next year is when we'll see inflation come back down.
Okay.
So what they're saying is inflation right now is at like 5.4%. And there are reports out there that it's actually in the 11 to 12% of inflation. Now, I don't know what, and I need to probably brief myself on what 5% inflation means, but I mean.
No, I've seen a lot of this because if you haven't gotten a pay raise, which is a big argument as far as living wages goes, like if you haven't increased your income by like 5%, you are losing money.
Right. Okay.
Basically.
So there you go. Yeah.
So if you have your wages increased by 5%, you're just breaking even. But if it's not been increased over this next whatever everything that's going on, you're literally making less money. Because you got to think about the dollar in a weird sense. Not like a dollar is only good compared to everything else that you can buy with a dollar.
So maybe like it's just the prices of pre-pandemic or just like a year ago, even during the pandemic. But inflation's hitting hard. And how long is it sustainable? Is there a lot of people out there that can wait up until the middle of next year to see these prices go back down? And when she says that, does that mean that it could only increase up until then, or is it going to hold steady where it's at? And even at this point, how expensive things are, it's just like, imagine how much money you're losing out on and you're not really able to save or invest because of this inflation. And you're looking at middle America and people who this is really affecting, I mean, but I don't really see it. I mean, you don't see it at work. I feel like sales are up at all the restaurants that we work at. And I always feel like inflation hits the Midwest almost at the latest, more so than it does like the East or West Coast.
No, I mean, I don't live on the East or West Coast. I can only talk about as far as like the Midwest goes. I don't pay enough attention to it to really have a good grasp on it. I know that it's happening, but like, because a cheeseburger is still like a cheeseburger at McDonald's, Like, you can still go to Mickey D's.
Well, Chipotle's raised their prices across the board throughout all the United States.
Yeah, they have.
But that was to your testament. They've increased their wages for workers, so they say. So that's why they justify their price increases because of the higher wages for employees.
Yeah, no, they just refuse to allow CEOs to have less money. Like that's the last person to make. Like, they'll cut employees and raise prices and everything and make things more difficult before, the CEO makes. The whole John Deere thing that's going on too. Man, I don't even know if this.
Well, I briefly heard about it. They lost a lot of people because of the wages, and then they just went and hired out a whole bunch of other people, and they didn't feel it.
Well, yeah, no, everybody went on strike from John Deere because the CEO paid himself out just this ridiculous amount of money, and then planned on like $1.83 raise over the next 5 years for the employees, and they're like, "No, you can go fuck yourself. Like, we're not working for you anymore. Like, you just made so much money off of our work, basically." And then, which is why strikes are strikes. This is history repeating itself. And then they had people that weren't union coming in and trying to do the job, and then people died and shit because they clearly don't know what they're doing as far as manufacturing goes, and he was still trying to keep things working. They just refused to give up any kind of money and pay people out, and it always.
So I mean, yeah, I don't get that. I feel like there's always two sides to the story, but in that one, it's just like, what's the other side of these rich CEOs who want this unfathomable amount of money, and so I guess my next question would be is why aren't people wanting to work? And you bring up situations like that. Yeah.
That's what it is. So they're just not paying people enough.
So when you look at unemployment rates right now for people of the ages of 25 to 54, which is prime years of work, being able to work, those are the years you're going to be able to do the most amount of efficiency, right? It's at 78% of those people are working. Okay, that's 2.4% below its level before the pandemic. So that's right around 2.4 million people. So that's just a lot of people. And is that the reason? You know what I'm saying? Is that the whole cause? Yeah. Because according to this article that I read, 825,000 of those people don't want to come back to work still because of COVID and the pandemic.
I mean, why would you want to go to work for something that can't afford things that you want anyway, whenever you can just feed off the government? And then because I'm assuming they got to have income coming somewhere. It's got to be from the government, right?
Well, I think when the pandemic happened and if people were still allowed to work, I'm sure a lot of people saved money during that time. And they're saying that a lot of these able-bodied workers of the ages of 25 to 54, a lot of them aren't coming back to work because they do have a nest egg and they were able to save money somehow or some way. And eventually, you're right, that's going to run out. And then what are they going to do? They're going to have to go back into the workforce. But I feel like even if you take, let's say it's 30 million people, it looks to be right around 25 to 30 million people of the ages of 25 to 54 that aren't working. And all of that can't be due because of wages and COVID.
You sure? You don't think people realized back whenever COVID first hit and they were getting paychecks that was twice the amount that they were putting in 40-hour work weeks at in Arby's or some shit, and they would go, man, all this money's here. A rational human thought was, wow, they had the money to pay us this whole time, and they've just been ripping me off for, my time spent on this planet.
There's a lot of places already that are conforming to these higher wages. I mean, you look at Missouri. In Missouri, I think it's this year, it's going to be $12.50 or $12.50 an hour or $13 an hour when it's all said and done. But my cousin's son, he's 15 years old, got a job at Subway, and he's getting paid $13 an hour at 15 years old.
That's still not shit.
For someone who's 15, are you kidding me?
Do you know that entry-level shit, like jobs like that, if you account for inflation and everything, people back in the 1950s were making $17, $18 an hour in comparison? That's still not matching.
But someone who's 13, they're making $13 an hour, or 15 making $13 an hour. I think that's justifiable. You're working 40 hours. What? You're getting a $450 check in a week?
This is my big question. Is the money there to pay people?
I think so.
It is there
to an extent, but so
it is there. It's just this refusal to pay them because then people with so much and all they know, it's almost like a mental illness for me now. I almost literally look at them as though you have a mental issue. Just refuse to give up any of their,
I get that. They could pay him more money, but at the same time, And I know a lot of these places have sold out, right? Like Subway, the actual owner of Subway, I'm not sure it still exists, or maybe they still own some Subways or have stake in it. And it's just these
It's a franchise. It's a franchise.
Or these large
company.
corporate, but like people take risk. If they're a franchisee, they take risk, their own hard-earned work and money. They take risk, and they say, hey, like, you know, I'm going to give it my all. This is my last shot in life. Like, I'm going to try and make this happen. And 20 years down the road, they have 100 Subways, right? And they're making a couple $1 million a year or however much money they're making. They took that risk in life. So why
That's
is
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the separation from where.
But you're saying you don't understand why they want to keep all that money. But it's like they worked hard for that money. You know what I'm saying? And now you want to take some of that money away. And I know it's millions. You know what I'm saying? Why do they need that much? And they need to pay these people, someone who's 15 years old, $13 an hour, when they don't even know what work is. You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that make sense?
It comes down to a moral issue. Like what do people deserve? Like, do people deserve a living wage? Like, no matter what? Like,
yeah, no, I get this. And we've had this discussion plenty of times about living wages and stuff like that. And I guess if living wages to me doesn't seem like it I don't know. Like, it's not a stretch to say, hey, what is the living wage, right? Should we find out what that is, and that's the minimum?
you can do that math. It's pretty easy.
I feel like that
in your region.
Yeah, I think that we should be able. I think that's a compromise I'd be willing to make. But now I'm kind of just after having all these podcasts that we've talked about and all these rich psychopathic people. I think for true entrepreneurs and what is true capitalism, I know you agree with true capitalism. We both know it's corrupted, and that's not the system that we live in.
Yeah,
but for us, we still technically do have that opportunity, man. Like, you and I we could save for the next 10 years of our lives, you and I together. Mm-hmm. And let's say we each get a couple $100,000, we invest right, and then we decide to open up our own restaurant, and then that restaurant in the next 20 years turns into thousands of restaurants where we're making tens of millions of dollars every year. And we don't want to share that because we took our blood, sweat, and tears and risk to do it.
So what you're talking about is the idea of a self-made individual.
Yeah. That still exists.
Is there such a thing?
It still exists.
Is there such a thing as a self-made individual?
I'm sure I mean, you're saying without networking or getting investments an investor and stuff like that?
So you can do it yourself.
The opportunity exists. Like I said, if we made all the right financial decisions.
That's another moral issue that I have is there is no self-made people. It always takes other people to get to where you are, kind of thing. And it's about paying them appropriately to get to where you are. And honestly, there's plenty of, you look at, his name's Dan Price. He took a massive pay cut. I don't remember the online payment service that he started, the company that he started, and he took a massive pay cut. And he went down to $70,000 a year as far as his salary goes, and everybody else had a stake in the company. He tripled his profits because he actually had people wanting to work for him. And he had this idea that it's not so much like my ambitions and how many it's other people that are like with me too. And if I'm getting it, they need to get it too. Because it's on their work too, not just mine. Yeah, you're leading the creative idea behind it. You're leading the really ambitious part. And to say that, man, other people don't take a risk, it's just higher risk, I don't know. I have this weird thing of this idea of being self-made now, whenever it takes so many other people to be involved for that self-made person to make it. But how many people did it take for that self-made person to make that bank account build up, that they have?
Well, working for another company, but at that point, I mean, for me, bartending, it would take a ton of time to even want to do something like that, to not have someone help me and invest in me and give me money to do that type of thing, right? I would have to have someone else, or unless I want to do it when I'm 50 or 60 years old, because that's how long it would take me to save up, unless I hit the right investments. To open up my own restaurant, you're looking at $1 million. I'll never have $1 million.
No. And that's another thing. It's unreasonable for millennials like me and you to be able to do things like this. It's so out of place because it.
But is it though? Because the challenges are out there, and
you can do it, but it's not like how it should have been. Back true capitalist, the 50s. Don't get me wrong, there was a bunch of shit wrong with America back in the 50s and 60s too. But man, you could start up your own business really easy. Me and you could sit down back in the 1950s and 60s. We could have had an empire, in 20 years. If we really worked hard enough at it. Can't do that shit now.
But do we work hard enough like they did back then? Do we really work hard enough? That's the question.
It's not a matter. Okay.
That's the question. And we're not really talking. We're not really talking.
Only
to people.
hard work only comes from what are your ambitions in life. My ambitions in life are not to be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. That sounds terrible to me. Like, I'm perfectly content with what I have right now. I don't need all that shit.
But what I'm saying is,
some people apparently do, and they have that ambition to do so.
But don't you think you could hit that if you wanted it?
Yeah, if I wanted it, I don't want it.
You could do it.
Yeah,
that exists.
Like
it's still there.
Crazy ambition to have that absolute want to like do something. Then yeah,
so that opportunity exists for everyone.
Now, what I know, but what does that cost sometimes? You know, like
That's true.
If you want $1 million, if I really wanted $1 million and I had ambition to get $1 million, how many? And you have to start tossing aside morality, is what I'm saying, for your want in life. To want something, you start setting aside morality, and then to get to this end goal of $1 million. How many people did I fuck over? How many people did I like stole money from? And I don't even give a shit what the law says, because the law says one thing, but morality says a different thing, at least for me. And I'm like, yeah, you're just stealing people, and you're stealing people's time. Like, not to get too much conspiracy theory into it. I believe everybody's a slave in America as far as the workforce goes. Because
but we choose that. I honestly believe we choose that.
What other choice do we have?
I think that there are multiple. I think that comfortability and just
everybody wants comfortability.
Yeah, and we get that, and we don't.
Everybody should have that.
Yeah, and okay. I've said this before. Like, anyone can really go out there, and if they really want to work hard, they can find an industry that they're good in. It doesn't have to be the service industry, which you can average $30 to $40 an hour bartending or serving tables, and you can make a living for yourself, and then that's comfortable, right? But I don't know, man. I don't know. I had a train of thought, but then it kind of went away. It's been happening a lot lately.
What ends up happening is you're fueling somebody else's dream. Like, I'm fueling the owner of the company that I work for.
Right.
I'm fueling his dream. But at a sacrifice for my time, and he has to pay me a certain amount of money for that sacrifice of time, because it's not something I really want to do. It's something that I need to be compensated for. That's the whole point of a job. Nobody wants, I'm not talking about a career. I'm talking about a fucking job. Nobody likes doing a job. You know what I mean? That's why we have the difference between the word job and career. As far as career path, man, this is what I'm super passionate about. And I'm going to, I'm my aptitude is strictly down this path, all that. I'm talking about a job. What they're doing is they're sacrificing their happiness and their time to make this CEO or owner's dream come true. So you should pay that person and be very thankful at the fact that they're giving up their limited time on this planet to do this so you can have your dream of this. And that's why I'm
but you don't have to be. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to help them with their dream. You choose to do that because you need a job. But we're the ones who didn't choose.
That's what I'm saying.
We didn't choose a career path because we were too comfortable in the life that we live. And
no career ever sounded appealing to me. But to be honest with you, I just never, nothing ever really clicked.
So why should people who create jobs be affected by? I mean, how are they affecting you by what you're saying? Because you don't want a career path, so so you just want a job, man. You just want a job,
and that's on you, and that's fine. But this is what I was getting at earlier, is I'm sacrificing my time spent on this planet for being up, I walking around. It's probably doing damage to my knees, doing damage to my fucking psyche. I know my cortisone levels are fucking high.
You chose it.
From I know, but I want to be, but I'm helping fuel your dream, so that's what I'm being compensated for.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's kind of how hierarchy structures fucking work in general. It's just these people that are doing it and sacrificing them, their body, their mind, and their time on this planet aren't being compensated appropriately for it.
Yeah.
You're going to pay them more.
Yeah.
Pay them more. Let them have, better shit. If you wouldn't have labor laws back that happened in the 1940s or whatever, as far as unions go, we'd still be working 60 hours a week with no overtime. You know what I mean? Everybody tried to get away with that. But
so I guess that could kind of bring me into this point. We can still stay where we're at. But is the result
what's your view on a human being at that point? Are we really equal? Because I don't CEOs and shit of major corporations, there is no way with a straight face, Jeff Bezos can look me in the eye and say, all men are equal. I go, oh, really? Why don't you just fucking pay him then? This is what's, man, there's a lot of things, and I hate bringing up the service industry. It's the only example that I can give right now because it's the one that I'm in, and I believe the structuring of the service industry is really wonky because somehow the service industry got away with, hey, we're not going to pay our employees, and the customers that come in are going to pay our employees. Oh, and then the other employees that don't interact with the customers, our employees are going to end up paying them. So we just somehow in service industry, like the owners of restaurants just don't pay people, and they get away with that.
Kind
somehow.
of smart though.
It's a weird.
I like it honestly.
It's
because
man, I'd have to really. I don't want to shit on it too hard. I'd really have to sit down, even though I kind of bitch about it. But also at the same time, whenever you go and you just want to pay me $15 an hour, I go, no, that's okay, because I make more from tips. So it's a weird gray area.
That's what I'm saying.
How
is it gray?
Because there is some bad in there, because within the service industry, literally, basically the employer of you says, hey, we're not going to pay you, but the customers are going to pay you. Oh, and by the way, the other people that we hired, you got to pay some of their salary too, because I don't want to pay them. And man, like I said, it's a weird gray area because I'd have to see the overarching math. And maybe that's just what it takes to run a restaurant.
I think it all works.
Every other business doesn't work that way. The service industry is a weird one.
I think it all works in the end.
I didn't want to use it as an example because the service industry is such a weird area where the money comes from. And I don't, I'd like to see some ledgers on where money has been made through like Applebee's or, Buffalo Wild Wings and, where that money's going and whether or not they actually could pay people more and not have employees have to pay other employees to do their shit. It's almost like a strip club. It's very similar.
Very, you're not wrong.
It's oddly similar
really is,
to that. Although strip clubs make more sense. A lot more money opportunity there. If I had tits, I'd probably be doing that. Well, I do have tits, just not good ones. But where was I going with that?
Okay, real quick. I'm just going to throw this in there. I'm just curious because right now we're looking at, and we can, like I said, we're going to stay with where we're at because I really like this topic, and we're hitting it a different way than we normally do, I feel like. But right now on the coast of California, you have like 100 cargo ships just chilling. And typically, pre-pandemic, you're looking at 7 to 12 ships in a given time period is the most you would see. They have both our cargo ships lining up. So what I'm curious is could also the reason for inflation be the fact that in all of these countries, and I'd be curious to know how many countries did stimuluses for people who weren't working. I mean, everyone in America got it if you qualified, and the qualifications weren't too hard. Be over 18, have a prior year's tax, all this other stuff, which isn't a lot in America. A lot of people got the stimulus.
All first world.
Yeah, which is what I'm trying to say. So could that have created inflation in itself when you're giving everyone money? I forget the total amount of money, but I think it was like right around $900 a week for 3 or 4 months that you would get state and federal combined, that you would get $900 a week. It was almost $1,000 a week. So they were getting close to like a $65,000 salary a year for a couple months is what everyone was getting. So you're having people who have never reached that plateau and they're now getting that, you know what I'm saying? On addition of these $1,200 stimulus checks, another $1,200 or another $1,500, that happened a few times. So is the demand for goods so high that...
Are you asking if it made people lazy?
No. I'm just saying the reason...
I didn't know. It almost felt like you were kind of going that way.
Kind of. But what I'm saying is, the reason that these cargo ships, there's 100 stockpiled, is it because there's so much demand for so many goods? Because so much more people have more money than they've ever had before. And you're talking millions and millions of people had access to this type of money.
No, that can't be the case.
You don't think so? You don't think if everyone had a living wage that the demand would be so high for things?
No, because like the same issue why we can't get certain imported bottled beer isn't because the beer is not there. It's because the glass blowers aren't working. So why aren't the glass blowers working?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so why do the glass blowers not want to work?
Could be because of money.
That's the only reason.
So I think we talked about this, and I'd be curious to go back to the last podcast, is the fact that maybe these people they were getting this $900 a week, And then COVID ended, and they're like, I'm not going to go back to a job that pays me less than that.
Man, we're so interconnected in the world, and regardless of how hard the media tries to cover this up, but there is a horrible distribution of wealth issue in the world. Like,
I read a stat, man. This was nuts.
Everybody sees it now.
10% of all stocks, or 10% of, okay, so.
It's like 98% of all stocks are owned by, like.
It's 89%. Of all stocks are owned by 10% of people.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's only progressing in that direction.
And come to find out, it's Vanguard.
Same thing with the housing market. Same thing with property ownership.
Well, no.
Everything.
Yeah. It's Vanguard and it's BlackRock. They almost own everything. Are they're major shareholders in almost anything, any stock, any finance stock that you look up. Disney, Hulu, CNN, Fox. And I mean, you're talking about polar opposites, left, right. Vanguard and BlackRock own both. Or they are major shareholders in both.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't you have access to Robinhood? You can buy ETF Vanguards and stuff like that.
Sure.
So could that
Sure.
So could that be misconstrued to say that maybe a lot of people are buying into Vanguard, or why is it that Vanguard and BlackRock own so much?
This is a very easy one to answer because look at your income. It takes income to be able to invest. Look at the income difference. Look at how people are generally paid. If you look at the cycle of the people that owning a company creates product or whatever, pays people to fucking do it. They're allowed to fucking invest back into that company, right? What happens when the majority of that wealth that's made from profit goes up here? Where do you really think they're putting their money? It's reinvesting. Now, how much can the person that's making way less than them is able to fucking put back into investments? Way fucking less. And then you have this force coupled thing to where the rich just become richer and you were just down here.
So then they pull out, and then the stock drops. They take all your money.
Yeah, and then they have foresight, and then the big ones, like I said, I don't know if, or not like I said, but people like pre-pandemic, all those politicians that like heard about that shit, and they pull other
insider
money out.
trading, yeah,
which I've heard that they're being looked into, but this is like, that's what's going to end up happening.
Yeah,
but no, this is what you get. It's just this cycle. And you'll never be able to catch back up.
So why does the stock market exist? Is it only for the rich? I feel like
now it is.
So it used to be for.
How
could it ever work in a good way, unless you put a cap on how much someone could invest?
I'm pretty sure bonds even happened before the stock market, and bonds were kind of the same idea, is to where it's almost like man, I'm not a financial advisor at all. I'm probably gonna like butcher this, but if you own something and you want to expand, what you can do is you can start piecing out ownership of the company or like value to the company. That way you can receive immediate revenue because they're paying the most liquid thing in the world, which is cash, to you. That way you can go and spend it for expansion or whatever is bonds. All that. That's why all that happens. Pay off debts or whatever. Like that's how that shit works.
You're borrowing money from someone.
Well, it's
a loan.
It's not loaning money. It's selling off a portion of a company to where you can get a liquid asset, which is cash right off.
So
right off the bat.
You no longer own 100% of what your business is, and you get a bond in return.
Well, no,
or an investment.
I don't know enough about bonds. Bonds work in a weird way. You get like 10 years, so you pay. I'm pretty sure, man. I don't want to butcher.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go down this road with bonds.
Sure,
I don't know enough about bonds.
I'm curious, like. So when the stock market first, but its inception,
it's like liquidating. It's like liquidating. It's like liquidating your company to an extent. Whenever you go public, that way you can receive immediate like cash for that, and then you can, like I said, the majority of the time it's to like pay off debts because it takes a lot of debt to be able to run a company. That's always the case within any company.
So you're just hoping
because
that
you have
people
to pay other companies to be able to make your company,
right?
But
what I'm saying is for like okay, so. How did it get to the point where Vanguard and BlackRock can just soak up everything and buy major shareholders in all major corporations? I don't think that's what the stock market was in place for, is for one or two companies to soak up everything.
No,
why weren't things put in place to stop that from happening? You know what I'm saying? Like that's
okay.
Just,
like if you owned a bar, right? Like you solely owned a bar and you started having trouble with the bar for whatever reason. And then you came to me and you're like, hey, I need some help with the bar. I have debts. whatever that I need to pay. Do you want to literally split this down the middle? You give me X amount of money. I'm going to sell off half of my rights and profits to this bar if I get the cash right now to be able to pay this off, to be able to make this work, and then now we can become business partners kind of thing. That's like tippy top like level. It's like splitting 50-50. Now you get stocks that are millionth, like 0.000, like a lot of fucking zeros, and then 1% that same idea.
So they're just buying up all these companies when they need money.
Well, oh man, maybe I misheard your question. What was your question again?
I'm saying, how is Vanguard and BlackRock able to soak up all these large corporations? Like I said, man, they have major shareholders in everything, and if not major, the top shareholders.
That's what they do. They're conglomerates. But that's what they do. Like Berkshire Hathaway, it's all the same shit.
But don't you think
basically you buy up massive portions of companies?
You think Elon Musk is involved with Vanguard and BlackRock? With the amount of money, or him and Jeff Bezos?
Everything is like interconnected in some way. They all hang out together in like tuxes and shit. Yeah. Okay. If you had that kind of money, do you think you just go home every night and hop on your iPad and then pull up your Bank of America account and then look at that number and then like jerk off? No, you move shit around. You get assets. You have to constantly be moving it. Like talking and shit. That's what drives them. It's like this.
I guess one of my question was, I just what it boils down to.
They're true hunter-gatherers, you know? Well, they're not hunters, they're gatherers.
Yeah.
They just gather the money.
I don't think the stock market...
They pay the hunters.
I don't think the stock market... There should have been something in place to not allow like a conglomeration of this size. And maybe it wouldn't matter. Maybe it's bound to happen regardless, but I don't know.
You know what's a weird thing? So I could be getting this wrong because it's been a while, but there's like 4 corporations, and are those some of the 2 that you're talking about that literally own everything in America? Like if you keep
4 corporations, but they're all intertwined.
Keep zooming out, like if you keep zooming out, you know, like you have your Subway, your Starbucks, fucking you know,
the 2 top companies you're gonna reach is.
And eventually you zoom out, and then eventually you see the connection between the 2, and then eventually there's only a handful of companies, right?
There's 2, and it's Vanguard and BlackRock.
Okay. What was a huge thing within the foundation of our economics was not allowing monopolies, right? Like you can't own multiple. I remember being taught monopolies in school, and they literally used the reference of like pizza shops. They were like, "Hey, if you have three pizza places, right? A, B, and C. You can take over 2 of them, but you have to, as American law, you cannot take over the 3rd one, because then you could make pizzas $50 a pizza, and people want pizza. They're going to pay it. Yeah. And what you're doing is you're taking advantage of people. That's the most simplistic way for me to explain monopolies. Well, how has it changed if there's only 4 fucking companies that own all the motherfucking companies? How there's not a monopoly happening somewhere within that? How do they get around the legality? I mean, I guess that they fucking have. But how do you get around that legality to where...
Because they create the laws. They create the laws with lobbyists and shit like that. They're in bed with the government and the Congress and all that stuff like you stated earlier.
Our government's not corrupt, bro. Yeah, our government's not corrupt.
And for people who don't see that, that just makes me completely frustrated.
Our government's only worried about me.
Yeah. Only
That's it.
That's it, man. They're so concerned with you, they want to inject you with the jab, man.
Yeah. Dude, they're so concerned with me. They listen to everything I say off my phone.
Yes.
You know, because they're really worried about me. They want to be like, hey, man, anything he needs, we need to be listening in on him to make sure that he gets his needs.
Did you ever watch A Brave New World?
No, I didn't.
I'm going to check that out.
Can I take a shot of that, actually?
Yeah.
Let me take a pull of this guy. Man, it's a fat bottle. Man.
Yeah. Fat bottle. Makers, man. That's the good shit right there.
Makers Mark. It's classy. It reminds me of like old school 1800s, like how they'd stamp a letter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They put the stamp on there.
The wax, yeah.
The wax stamp.
Hell yeah.
That's what they're going for.
With all this inflation, man, it begs the question of how we got here. And I think we all know the answer to that, man. And we've talked about it so many times, and I hate rehashing it. And I feel like a lot of the YouTube channels that I watch,
needs to be talked about.
They rehash it as well. You're right. We need to talk about it. Is the fact that I think no matter what we do, or even if the Constitution was complete and was being fulfilled how it was supposed to be, how it was when it was written in 1776, I still think you end up with this problem, especially financially in the financial world, with all these people gathering these large amounts of wealth and having this disparity in gaps of wealth between the poor and the rich. I think that's always going to exist with humans. I don't think that there's this perfect world where everyone makes the same amount of money. And I know you're not asking for that. I know you specifically just said a living wage, and I'm down for a living wage, man. I also get down with the people who say, like, do you really need to make a living wage flipping burgers at McDonald's? And I don't think that they should. And then if McDonald's doesn't exist anymore, then I'm okay with that. I don't fucking care if McDonald's
Wait, you don't think people working at McDonald's don't deserve a living wage?
I've worked at McDonald's. It was my first job. I don't think it's a job for someone who's an adult. That's just my opinion. And if it is a job for someone who's an adult, they're most likely a manager, or they've received raises throughout the years because they perform more tasks within that environment that allows them to make a living wage. And if McDonald's doesn't want to pay that and they're like, hey, I can't afford you, that's McDonald's right to do that. And they're just going to say, hey, I'm going to hire this 16-year-old or 15-year-old who can do this job, who doesn't really need a living wage. They just need to know what work is.
So now it's age-based. So basically what you're saying is if you have what you consider an entry-level wage job and you're 35, should you be paid more than the 17-year-old that does the job better?
No, I mean,
and then you're just fucked because 17-year-olds don't deserve a living wage.
I feel,
so now go to your fucking box out back behind like fucking Hy-Vee, and then go to work.
I think
40 hours a fucking week.
So what I'm saying is, man, you have to find your niche, what you're good at, and I'm not saying people
shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to fucking do that.
No, Jesse.
This is what I'm fucking getting at. Hear me out.
Okay.
Nobody has to figure out what the fuck they're doing in this life.
Someone who's 35 who wants to work at McDonald's, flipping fucking burgers, working at the cash register, they do not deserve a living wage. They don't.
Yes, they
don't.
Do.
They need to go.
They do.
They need to.
You don't have to get your fucking niche. I'm not saying they deserve a fucking Lamborghini either. But guess what? They deserve to be able to put food on the fucking table, not have to worry about fucking paying rent fucking late. They should be able to pay for like transportation.
Okay, so check it
out.
out.
Fucking general life, because they're like I said before, to reiterate this, they're spending their life, their time on this planet, their body, their mental state, so somebody else's dream can fucking flourish.
For sure.
And they should be paid appropriately for that to where they can do their shit too.
I'm 30.
And not have to be so worried about shit.
I'm 32.
And it's not that fucking difficult.
I'm 32. And if I decided that I wanted to
pull a mask off of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. I've been here the whole time.
I'm 32, and if I wanted to go work at McDonald's right now, I can guarantee you with what I've done and what I've done in my life to where I've reached now, I would make more than a living wage at McDonald's because of what I've done. Someone who is 32...
It's exploitative work is what you're getting
Who in their right mind at 32 is going to sit down in an interview at McDonald's and say, yeah, I'll take $10 an hour?
Dude,
and if they did take it, then there's...
People who are just trying to get their shit together. You don't know people's lives?
Bro, I don't.
People
don't know my lives, man. But
no,
dude...
Everybody's going through different shit.
Everyone wants a handout.
At least give them enough to, like, have a decent life. It's not that... How much technology we fucking have right now should baffle fucking anybody.
Then they should use that...
It should not be that fucking difficult.
Then those people should use technology to their advantage.
How?
And what do you mean how?
They have to have the money to buy the technology, to buy the fucking the place to go and live.
Go work at McDonald's for a few hours making $10 an hour.
Those people probably need fucking therapy. You know how much fucking like mental health insurance and just health insurance in general fucking cost?
We're talking about able-bodied people here. I'm not talking about people with mental health issues. That's a completely different story, man. Those people really do need help. Anyone with mental health issues does need help, and we need to figure that out, and it's completely on. I'm talking about able-bodied people who can work and make an impact and are efficient. They should not be able to walk into McDonald's at 35 years old and make a living wage because there's other things out there, and they should be more efficient at that age than what they are. And if they're not, then you're right. They most likely probably do need help, and there should be different avenues for those people to take.
There's just so much to where I'm like, you don't have to have a dream of building a corporation, building a company, having a fucking career
that exists,
and then all of a sudden you get used up by society. You should be able to be just, I'm willing to like basically sell myself to your company, but I need to be able to do my own shit too, because I guarantee you they have dreams. It's just not financial ones, and it's not of great ambitions of money.
Sure.
But they need to be able to make enough
those jobs
to
exist.
where they can sit down and read magazines or fucking color in a coloring book. I don't fucking know what they like to do.
But so we're sitting here having this conversation, and you and I have never left the restaurant industry. You did briefly.
No, I have no ambitions.
Briefly, but that's what I'm saying.
I have no ambitions.
So,
not to say that I'm not a lover of life and not like
what you're asking for exists. There are jobs out there that probably allow you to enjoy what it is that you want in life and still
not
make,
about me. I fucking figured it out.
And still make a living wage.
But I'm worried about, okay, it's not like I've 100% figured it out. I'm worried about everybody else that I fucking see that I know are fucking struggling. I have it figured out more than most millennials. Like, and I still don't, I'm not even close to fucking anything at all. And I have it better than a lot of millennials that I fucking see. And it's not, man, just pay people enough money to like work a 40-hour week and then not have to worry about finances and shit, or like, you know, health level shit. I know this sounds weird, you know, but make sure other people are happy too with their lives that aren't ambitious either, you know?
But a lot of these things are jobs, and people don't want to do these jobs. And you're saying pay them appropriately.
Nobody wants to do a job.
Hold on.
Name somebody who gets excited about a job.
But check this out.
Nobody's excited about a fucking job.
If you excel at your job,
it is a sacrifice of your fucking self to do that.
If you excel at your job, and I would, and you know what? I'm only taking my practice. I'm only taking what I've done in life. At each job that I've been at, I have excelled, and these are lower entry jobs, right? Restaurants, grocery stores, mainly. Moving company.
There is work ethic in there. Work ethic is separate.
Yes, and I have excelled, and I made a very low wage at the start of each job, and I excelled so well to where I'm above a living wage at each job, because that is me excelling as a person. You know what I'm saying? So to go further onto that,
should lazy people be able to have shit?
I mean, if they're lazy, then they're going to get what they get. They're going to, like you said, this life is finite, man. Like if you want a living wage,
so this is an easy way to fix this.
Work for it, man. You're still in America. You still have access to more than any other person in the world. Someone who doesn't have a job and is homeless is probably most likely living better than someone in a third world country, which is crazy to say.
Do lazy people take advantage of hardworking people?
Yeah, 100%. Food stamps, housing, all that type of shit. Yeah, 100%.
I need to piss, but I don't have a guest on or Johnny sitting here, and you're gonna have dead air.
Nah, bro, we can end it here shortly at 50 minutes. I'm not worried about it.
Okay, because I got to piss real bad.
So
that would be down a conversation probably for a separate day. That, you know, because that's a deep one there.
Should we compensate for lazy people? Again, I'm all on board with mental.
Man, there's so many angles to that, though.
Dude,
you cannot take that at just fucking face value. I wanted that to spark some other shit, but my bladder's full.
And we'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're going to do. We'll leave it
I'm
there.
like 98 years old, Bernie Sanders here tonight.
Yeah.
Sadly, Jesse and Johnny couldn't make it. Bernie Sanders is here tonight. And my bladder is full.
All right. The best thing you guys can do for this channel, honestly, is just spread the word. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to all our junkies out there.
Stay fly and vote for me. 2024, Bernie Sanders. Let's go, guys. Let's get on this.